Hi, this is Kelly from paperbeadrollers.com, and today we're going to make this beautiful corded leather bracelet with a paper bead on the top. Now things may look a little bit different around me today. That's because I'm visiting friends in Michigan and I'm not in my normal craft room, but we are just going to roll with it and see how it goes. For this project, you'll need an embossed piece of paper. Now you can emboss your own or purchase embossed paper from the craft store. You'll also need a 4 to 5 millimeter piece of leather cording. Now this is a piece of 5 millimeter round braided leather that I purchased at the Raleigh Bead Show a few weeks ago. I bought a foot, but I won't need all of that for my bracelet. You'll only use as much as you need to fit your own wrist. Every bracelet needs a clasp. I also bought this magnetic clasp at the Raleigh Bead Show from the same vendor that carried the leather cording. It's 5 millimeter and fits my leather band exactly. The tools you need for this project include a pair of scissors, some strong glue like E6000, a ruler, and the Peach paper bead roller from paperbeadrollers.com. You'll also need some white glue, 26 gauge wire, and wire cutters. This piece features one large paper bead as the focal point, so let's figure out how wide that bead should be. I'll hold a ruler up to my wrist to help me determine that. I want the bead to be almost as wide as my wrist, so I think I'll make it about 2 inches wide. Now when I cut embossed paper, I don't use my cutting machine or even my guillotine cutter because in the past I've found that any kind of pressure or stress that gets put on this paper can flatten it or tear it. So I mark the paper and cut it with scissors. First I'll put a mark at the 2-inch point on each edge of the paper. Then I'll draw a straight line from mark to mark so that I can cut straight. Now I'll trim the length of the paper so that I get the thickness of bead that I want. In this case, I want my strip to be about 4 inches long. I'll use the Peach bead roller from paperbeadrollers.com. It creates a bead cord that is 5 millimeters thick, which will go over my leather cord nicely. Gently roll the bead without putting too much pressure on the embossed paper and glue the end down tightly. Now before you glaze the bead, slide it onto the leather cord. We're going to do some shaping. I'm going to flatten and curve my bead so that it fits over the top of my wrist nicely. Now just play with it a bit. You don't want to tear or wrinkle the paper. Just kind of pinch it down, press it into shape, and you should be able to give it a nice, gentle curve. Now if you'd like, you can glaze your paper bead now, and then after it dries, put it back on the bracelet. Now as I said earlier, I'm not in my craft room, I'm traveling, and I somehow forgot to bring a bottle of glaze with me. So you won't see me glaze this bead right now, but I will glaze it after the fact so that it can hold up to wear. Now it's time to trim your leather cord down to size. It looks like my bracelet is going to be about 7 inches long. Yours may be different depending on the size of your wrist and how tight you want the bracelet to be. I'll use this tube of E6000 adhesive to attach my magnetic clasps. Now be careful with this type of tube because one small squeeze will cause glue to come out for several seconds because the tube is made of metal. Put the E6000 inside the clasp. Make sure it's covering the sides a little bit. Now don't put too much in because once the cord goes in, there won't be a lot of room for the glue. If you fill it too full, you'll have a mess on your hands as it all squeezes out the edges. Now wipe off any excess glue before it dries on the leather. Now for the other side. Be sure to clean off the tip of your tube before you put the cap back on so you don't glue the cap to the tube. Now let's dress this up with a little bit of wire wrapping. So I'm going to take this brown wire that I have, it's 26 gauge, and I'm going to cut two 4-inch pieces of dark brown wire, one for each side of my bead. Starting at the underside of the bracelet, wrap the wire around the edge of the paper bead about 3 times. Then use your pliers to gently squeeze the wire together. Now if you have any coated pliers, that's actually best for working with wire, but I did not bring mine today. Now wrap the remaining wire around the leather. Use your pliers to squeeze the ends of the wire down into the leather and into the paper bead so they don't scratch you. Now there is a tool called a cut burr that helps you round the ends of the wire so that it's not sharp anymore. I don't have one of those yet, but I will probably get one soon because I've started to work with wire a bit more. Now do the same wire wrapping on the other side of the bead. And your bracelet is finished. I just love the look of this. I may have to make a necklace and earrings to match, so look for that in a future tutorial. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that bell button so you'll be notified when future tutorials go up. Have a wonderful day and happy rolling!